Welcome back to another episode of the Terptalk podcast. It's game week. The Terps head to Champaign to take on the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Jordan and I get into our predictions and preview of Maryland's second to final road trip of the Big Ten season. We also talk some hoops with Maryland heading out to the Midwest to take on Marquette on Saturday. Let's get to it. This podcast is brought to you by VinerX. Your business deserves technology that works as hard as you do. VinerX brings your business enterprise technology that is human first. VinerX aligns technology with your goals, giving you productivity, reliability, and the freedom to scale. From managed IT and communications to business intelligence and cybersecurity, VinerX brings the tools that let you thrive. With VinerX, IT isn't a cost center, it's an investment in your future. Learn more at VinerX.com. Welcome into another episode of the Terptalk podcast. Jordan, it's November. We're still in it, but it feels like the days of meaningful football in 2025 are over.
Yeah, the reality and the feeling of the fan base may be different things right now because, as you said, Mason, it's very possible we're still bowling come couple weeks, but we'll discuss that later.
I don't know how that's possible, but
it is possible, though. We'll discuss that later, though, Mason. First off, we're going to hit the hardwood for some basketball action. The men's basketball team faced Alcorn State in a game, Mason, that I did not see, as we all know, because I was attending a personal basketball game, we'll call it, in Philadelphia. But I did rewatch some of it. I checked the box score, Mason, and I was live tracking it in my seats. This game was way too close for most of the game.
Yeah, I'm not inspired by where we're at right now. Darius Adams played a little bit better in the second half. Pharrell Payne dominated the game like a player of his level should. Reality is we played 3 games. 2 of them are against some of the worst teams in college basketball. But we have a real challenge coming up on Saturday on the road. And look, this team needs to be better, or it's gonna be a long, long year.
That's a good summary. I mean, you can't take too much away from this, although I think it's pretty apparent, Mason. Pharrell Payne's the best player of this team by a mile.
Yeah, Jordan, you know what else I think is apparent? Is we need Solomon Washington back on the floor. We got to find a way here to, either get him back. There was some talk about maybe this Marquette game, but, in some conversations I had this week, it seems like the plan and the best plan, maybe, if this was like the Elite Eight or an NCAA tournament game, he could go. But it maybe to not have him play, get this team back together. Uncertain on the status of Miles Rice for Saturday as well. It might be just time to kind of shape up for the players era and have to go out west and get a couple wins to strengthen that resume. But look, there aren't a lot of chances to. This is one of them. Talking about a Marquette team, they lost pretty badly to Indiana last week, and you got to come out and compete and give yourself an opportunity to win. Remember, a year ago at this time, a lot of us were out on what Kevin Willard had going, and players like Rodney Rice did not look good until the season really got going. But I'm holding out hope, but we're not playing inspiring basketball, and we're letting these teams hang around that just have no business being in these games.
It's very well put. It's going to be a heck of a doubleheader for us Maryland fans. On Saturday, we get the Marquette game at 2, Mason, on Peacock, and then the Illinois game at 3:30. Going to be a long afternoon. Hopefully we get at least one win out of those 2. But, it's a good measuring stick game, we'll call it. Marquette is supposed to be middle of the pack in the Big East. Like you said, Mason, they didn't really have a great start to the season either. Interestingly, though, this is Buzz Williams' first game back at Marquette since he left the program almost, I think, 15 years ago, maybe longer.
Yeah, interested to kind of see what that looks like. It just feels like we need a win. And it's way too early to be saying it feels like we need a win, but it feels like we need a win.
It does. At least a good showing after the Georgetown disappointment. Speaking of Georgetown basketball, the women's team beat Georgetown on Sunday. For those who don't know, Georgetown women's basketball is not a good program. The Big East as a whole, that's how UConn isn't very good with women's basketball. The Terps did impress, as much as they could 85-66. Another solid showing in a bit of a bland schedule. The women's team is playing Towson actually right now as we record this episode. And what I'm sure, let me check the stats for that one real quick, Mason. I'm sure it's a beatdown too.
Yeah, the game Sunday was ugly. The Terps trailed well into the third quarter, or they trailed in the third quarter. They kind of battled it out, grinded it out up to that point against the Jordan, as you mentioned, a Georgetown team that's just not great. They were able to play a massive fourth quarter up and were able to come with the win. Yeah, it was, trailing at halftime, trailing at the end of the third quarter. They end up winning the fourth 34-9 to get that win. Not a great showing. It looks like it was a little bit better tonight. The Terps got off to a quick start, and they're up pretty big at the half and looked against Towson.
Yeah, Mason. One thing to shout out about that women's game, though, Addie Mack, the freshman from Minneapolis that Todd was really high on, had a dynamo performance off the bench, scoring 23 points to lead all players and hitting, 9 for 13 from the field. Might be a good player to watch as the Terps try to build some depth. But again, very bland non-con for the women's team this year. Going to be hard to gauge anything from them for a while. In other Terp sports news, Mason, a bit of a disappointing week around the non-rev report, which is saying a lot considering the non-rev season we've had. Field hockey, as we correctly predicted, will miss the NCAA tournament for the first time in a full season, that is non-COVID year, since 1994, Mason. Just a pretty disappointing one, for being honest.
Yeah, this team had a lot of high hopes for them. Just they couldn't find goals. And they'll, reshape it next year. They have a young team, a lot to be inspired about in that roster, but just not the standard that Missy has her program at.
Volleyball dropped back-to-back games on Saturday and Sunday to Ohio State and Michigan, respectively. Although a much better performance on Saturday, nearly being Ohio State, 15-12, losing in the final set. Mason, that team continues to slide, unfortunately, though, and I don't see a win coming. They get two ranked opponents on the road this weekend in the Indiana teams in Purdue and the Hoosiers.
Yeah, they're awful. That's just where we're at right there, and I'm thinking change may be needed here in the offseason.
We'll circle back to men's soccer here because wrestling was a bright spot, a strong showing to open, their second game of the season, not the opener, in Bethlehem at the Journeyman Collegiate Classic. Mason Branson John gets a second straight title in the 197 black group. Mackay Neal and Jackson Smith also take home hardware in the 157 green and 184 black. They will face the Citadel and Gardner-Webb this weekend as their season begins to ramp up, but promising start against some good teams for that group.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good, and not neither of the two that they'll play or have to meet with this weekend are teams that they should not beat, so it should be an opportunity to get some wins in all the weight classes.
Mason, men's soccer had a very disappointing day yesterday in front of an absolutely packed house at Ludwig Field. I was watching that game on BTN. That place, there was not a seat to be had anywhere as the Terps hosted the Big Ten tournament, but unfortunately, very inopportune time to suffer the first loss of the season, falling to UCLA 2-0, and they will not play the championship game on Sunday, which is something we were planning to go to, Mason, if we made it that far, but we did not. Hopefully, we'll still be a one seed in the tournament, but no way to get around it. A crushing disappointment at home to open Big Ten postseason.
Yeah, I don't know, crushing disappointment. This team's got a lot to look forward to still. It would have been nice to pick up these last two wins at home, but it didn't work out that way. They had some opportunities there late and just weren't able to get one. UCLA gets the insurance goal when the Terps are pushing, and you finally drop a game. It would have been really nice to see this team go unbeaten, but look, the real work will start here in the NCAA tournament, and Sasha's got to get these boys ready to go.
Indeed, hopefully we host some games, and hopefully Mason and I can make it out there, and hopefully some of you make it out there for our, again, hopeful campus appearance games early.
They're definitely going to have they're guaranteed a campus appearance game at home.
You would hope so. But that should be exciting, and hopefully, like you said, we'll all be out there to support them. Still the best team on campus, even though they lost this one, but not the best players. That has to go to our women's tennis pairing of Emma Kovacic and Emma, again, I'm sorry about this, Giordano, who scored a huge win at the ITA Regionals at UNC. They are the first Terrapins, Mason, to advance to NCAA championships in tennis since 2011. The championships start next week at the U.S. Tennis Facility down in Orlando. A bright spot, Mason. I know it's tennis, it's got to take it in stride, but for these athletes and for the coaches and support staff that support them, huge accomplishment for them and something that the Terps should be proud of this fall.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Jordan, that wraps up that part of the show. Now to around the Big Ten.
Yeah, and a pretty interesting weekend around college football and the Big Ten. Mason starts on Friday night with Minnesota going to Eugene. Oregon's favored big by 25.5 to get a home win here. I can't see it going a different way. I know PJ Fleck's got a good coach, but it might be outclassed in that one.
Yeah, they haven't been able to score against better opponents in the league. I think that continues Friday in Eugene.
Wisconsin goes to Indiana. Another game supposed to be a blowout. I don't see it going a different way.
Yeah, me neither. Wisconsin, they got their conference win last week. They got stormed the field. I think that shifts for them going up against Indiana. Hard to see the Badgers scoring more than 14, 13 points in this game.
Did they storm the field?
They did.
I actually was not aware of that. Good for them. Good for their fans. And Washington's a good team. Don't get me wrong, but goes to show how far the Badgers have fallen. One of the more interesting games, Mason, not for the teams, but for the location. Number 18, Michigan travels to Northwestern for Big Ten kickoff, which is only Big Ten kickoff, Mason, because it's a home game at Wrigley Field for Northwestern.
Yeah, they've had a couple of these in the past, and there's a decent mix of fans there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of maize and blue in the stands at Wrigley. Northwestern, though, I think they can compete in this game. Michigan's offense has not looked great. David Bond's defense has. I like what the Cats have been able to do this year. I thought they could compete a little bit better last week out in the Coliseum. But you know what, Jordan? Give me Northwestern.
A bold take. This was something actually Wayne and I were saying. If we weren't playing this weekend, it might have been a trip worth taking out to Chicago for us. Now this one I don't understand. Number 21 Iowa and number 17 USC. USC trying to build momentum for the playoff hunt, Mason. How did this game end up on BTN?
BTN's got to keep some good games at some point. I really thought this should have been the CBS game. We'll talk about what is in a second here, but I think the league is trying to get all their teams their rotation through these games, and these two have both already seen both of the prime windows. So it's all about TV now.
I guess so, but good game regardless. USC again trying to make that playoff push. This is a really good opportunity for them as they lead into Oregon next week, Mason. But it kind of has trap game written on it for that reason for me.
Yeah, if you're not going to show up against the Hawks, they'll beat you. They'll beat you on the ground. They'll beat you with their defense. I think that's what happens. Iowa's just they find ways to keep these games close and to make winning plays when the other team just does not have everything, all their ducks in a row. And to me, USC is still not that team. They don't have the commitment to doing everything right. That makes it hard to beat a team like Iowa.
All their ducks in a row. Nice Oregon joke. Penn State at Michigan State, which is our CBS feature, and again, I'm sure it looked a lot better when it got picked. Mason, look, if either of these teams lose, they're out of the bowl hunt.
Yeah, I think the way Penn State's playing right now, though, they are primed to get this win. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are going to be able to just dominate the game on the ground. Michigan State's in such a bad spot in so many ways right now. It's going to come down to if the Nittany Lions defense can play well. They were able to play well last week up until that last drive. I don't know where Penn State will be at mentally. I think for Michigan State, there's opportunity in this game. But I just think Penn State, the ground game is going to be able to carry them in this one. And Michigan State's ball security has been bad. The defense has been bad at times, and they just don't really have a good quarterback, and that's held them back significantly this year.
Excuse me. Well, quick aside, Mason, Michigan State just get hit with some sanctions to vacate all of their wins for their Johnson Smith era, Mason. I mean,
the Mel Tucker era.
Oh, it wasn't Mel Tucker. My bad. Apologies on that one. Regardless, though, it's a bad time in East Lansing.
Yeah, I mean, what a sham. Like, yeah, things went wrong that are sanction worthy, but like, where's the sanction for Michigan? And just vacating wins is a joke at this point. It just really is.
It is. And to your point, I don't understand how Michigan got so easy on a much worse offense. But hey, I'm not here to talk about the state of college sports. If we do, this podcast will be 2 hours long. Mason, Purdue at Washington, and I mean, just an unappealing game at this point. Washington, it just, it, I feel like they've gotten so close to breaking through so many times this year, and they're just not.
Yeah, it feels like their only breakthrough was against us in the fourth quarter, Jordan. I get what you were hinting at there. Um, they certainly found the playbook they used in the first three quarters against us last week. They just managed to not, turn around in the fourth one. Um, yeah, this is Purdue. Purdue season's done. Washington's going to win this game. They're going to win by a lot.
I would agree with you. Speaking of winning by a lot, to close out our slate, UCLA travels to Ohio State. Mason, I mean, I look UCLA. If they win this game, that would punctuate one of the most bizarre seasons in recent college football history. But I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, no, I just don't think they have a guy that can match up against number 4 or number 12 for the Buckeyes. Tate and Smith, they're two of the best in the country. This Ohio State team is a machine. The defense is excellent. The offense, it has excellent players. I don't want to really call it an excellent group, but they just find a way to move the football. It's a night game in Columbus, so that place will be going.
Indeed, it will be, Mason. And look, college football season's wrapping up. A lot of unknowns flying around right now, to say the least. And there's the controversies of who's getting ranked where in the playoff rankings is starting to boil. I'm very curious to see what happens over the next really few months. I think we're getting closer to tipping point here with the sport, but that's a topic for another day. Our abridged Terps in the NFL, Mason, a pretty eventful week for our Terps in the league. Starting with Stephon Diggs, who has quietly had a pretty good year. 5 catches, 46 yards, and a touchdown, as the Patriots, who are playing right now against the Jets, continue to roll.
Yeah, Steph has really turned things around. He's scoring touchdowns. He's leading the team. It's really good to see.
It is after a tumultuous offseason, to say the least. Mason, our guy Josh Woods, our favorite Terp in the NFL, 4 tackles for the Falcons, who continue to spiral. But Josh Woods continues in year, I think, 8 for him in the league, which, if anybody predicted that one as a Terp fan, please give me lottery numbers. I could use the money.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's just found his way on special teams and as leader in the locker room. In Atlanta, things are not good for Atlanta. But on the other side of that game was Nick Cross, who picked up 7 tackles and a sack. I still think he's right up there. He's got a shot at being an All-Pro this year.
Indeed, he does. He has a great year. Speaking of great years, Dante Trader, who has been a bright spot in an otherwise lost Dolphins season, picked up 6 tackles and makes a start at safety. Mason, he's one of your favorite players for the Maryland football program, and he's really showing why maybe we didn't get the best out of him here, but been a great first season for him, and hopefully he sticks around in Miami for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly picked up a lot of tackles here and could really make plays. I think in Miami, he's getting a lot of kind of almost unfortunately the same looks, where they got guys that are open and he's been able to bring them down. But other than that, he's having a really, really solid year. You never want to see a safety leading a team in tackles. It's generally not a good sign. And for Dante, he's making plays. He's and making a name for himself. But Miami is just not in a great spot right now. Washington and Miami, Jordan, from Spain on Sunday morning. These are 2 just bad teams.
Indeed. I'm still hoping the Commanders get a win, though. I need it more than they do at this point. Mason, speaking of needing a win, look, let's wrap up our Rutgers conversation first. It's one of those sun came up tomorrow kind of things. Like, it felt like, and it still kind of feels like the season ended in Piscataway, but the fact of the matter is, Mason, we have a game next week. And we're still in the hunt for bowl eligibility, whether we want to believe it or not. Only 4-5. You could still make it. There's still winnable games left, and I do believe this game is winnable. I don't know if they're going to win it, but this is a winnable game. Mason does not agree with me based on his face.
Yeah, Jordan, I don't have the same, kind of words I've had the past couple weeks. This is bad, and like you want to bring it back to Rutgers, and Rutgers, in my opinion, and it was my opinion after the game, is just, it's the mental aspects of the game that we're not winning. And the preparation and the willingness to go out there and put it all on the line. I don't feel like we've got that, and that's all speculative. It's not really scheme, but our fundamentals are not good here throughout the season. The team that took the field in August is not the team that's on the field now. And we got to find something. Mike's a player's coach. All these guys, the world is not a bubble anymore. We're not cutting stuff out of the newspaper and sticking up on lockers and bulletin boards. These guys are not blind to what's going on here. So now, I'm going to put it on everybody that's in the building. What do they got, Jordan? Because coach is about gone. So do they show up more? Do they put the work in? Is it about our effort of the guys in that room come Saturday? Because you're going to play a team, and they're going to come out. It's a balanced attack with a veteran quarterback, and it's a guy who, if you don't remember, a couple years ago, when it was looking like he was just another, bad quarterback in Illinois, he lit us up and they hit a game winner on us. It's one of the games we feel like we should have won. Well, now Illinois is in that same spot. They're not happy. They're not satisfied. But if they turn on the tape from the last 2 weeks, they're thinking they're about to come out and kick our ass. But I don't really want to focus on them. Do we have passion for what we're doing here? Do we have the ability to play for our coach? Because he's coaching for his job, like I already said. Is the belief in this program enough to put a reasonable product on the field? Did we not express that last week in the locker room, that we had to win? Again, I don't know what's said behind closed doors, but that's what it's got to be like. If it's not like that, then we're just, the season's over. We're packing it in. We got no desperation or fight to be better. But that's kind of what it feels like right now. Is the whole thing caving in, or is there anything left in the tank?
I guess we'll find out. Talking some stats and X's and O's real quick. Luke Altmaier, of course, Illinois quarterback. Everybody in the conference knows him at this point. Very balanced rushing attack from this team. We got 3 runners with over 200 yards, including 2 with almost 400. And, of course, Mason, you didn't really mention him. Hank Beatty might be the best receiver in the conference, Jeremiah Smith notwithstanding, with 730 yards, the senior. Like you said, this is a balanced attack. And this Illinois team was supposed to be really good in offense going into the year. Obviously, they've shown at times. The USC game comes to mind. Last week 2 weeks ago, 35 points on Rutgers. But in the big moments, Mason, against Ohio State, against Washington, which I don't know if I'll call it a big moment, but that was a big game for them. And early in the season against Indiana in that huge game there, I believe recalls, they have not shown up in big moments. To your point, Mason, this Illinois team, which came into the season ranked number 9 in the country, kind of has a, no disrespect intended, Locks vibe to it. That they just have not achieved what they felt like they should have achieved going into the season. They were supposed to be a playoff contender, and now they're not even ranked.
Yeah, and look, I think, Jordan, you're missing a man by the name of Cardinal Tate when you say that this guy's the second best receiver in the league.
I certainly am. That's a fair point.
He's definitely in the top 5. And look, we have not been able to stop other teams' stars. We haven't really been able to stop anybody these past 2 weeks. And you would hope that there is that resolve inside the building that this is not over, that we can be better, that we don't need to be an embarrassment of the fans and of the school. Because that's where this is right now. I mean, we're doing major soul searching as a fan base. And to me, that is the story. Now, on the X's and O's side, Jordan, it's simple. We got to compete at the line of scrimmage better than we've competed the past 2 weeks. You're talking about a team that in Pasadena dominated the line of scrimmage, made big plays. I don't know what's happened since then. We've suffered some injuries, but the same guys that are out there, whether they're injured or not, that I don't think that if you're getting pushed 7 yards up the field now because you're injured, then you probably shouldn't be on the field. And look, I'm tired of the excuses. In the trenches, we're getting beat. Our pass blocking was atrocious on Saturday. That's how the quarterback ends up running for 180 yards, is because we're letting jailbreak rush come through, and Malik's finding a way to escape and get out in the open and make some plays because he's not a quarterback you necessarily need to spy on. But once that piece of the game was contained, we could not execute. Guys are open, they're dropping the ball. Guys can't get open. We're getting 5, 6, 7 seconds there in the fourth quarter. There's nobody open. And when they are, we're not making the plays. So this whole season on offense has felt like it was cursed because we just haven't made the plays when we've had the opportunity. We gotta show that we're better. The quarterbacking needs to be better. The play calling. I mean, we got to try and push the ball down the field. To me, Caleb Webb has identified himself as the best wide receiver, and we got to do some things to get him a lot more snaps and to get him open because he's making plays for us. I said it. I don't know if it was on the post game or after the game last week. I would like to see Sean Williams, Ryan Manning if he can go. I don't know what his injury status was. He was out last week. Powell Wilson. Give me anybody. Well, wide receiver by committee needs to come back. This group is not working. Dorian Fleming is apparently not the threat we thought he was going to be in the passing game. He certainly has struggled in the run blocking game, but that's one of the things I will say has improved as the season has gone on. But overall, I like the play calling more last week. At this point, if we're going to let it rip and Malik's going to throw 4 interceptions, let it be. But we cannot live and die with 2-yard passes at the line of scrimmage where we're getting beat because we can't block.
Now, that is what also Wayne said on the post-game show, and what he asked Locks in the press conference is at some point, you got to throw the ball. I mean, we all know how offense, or at least maybe not, but I think we all have some familiarity with how offense runs. You need all depths of the game. You need the short passes, the long passes, and the run game to work for it all to flow. And when there's no down the field threat, Mason, we all know it allows defenders to cheat up because they're not going to throw it over their heads. I mean, I don't know if we had any routes that extended past 20 yards last week that at least were attempted.
Yeah. We definitely did try and throw the ball down the field a handful of times, and they were not pretty opportunities. Jordan, one of the things that, when you say that, right, the intermediate passing game is something we got to find here. I mean, we're allowing teams to roll 2 deep safeties just because we're not competitive. We're not winning one-on-one matchups on the outside, and they're able to help over the top and use those safeties in zones and be able to drive them, getting them downhill against the short passing game. We're allowing guys to run free because by design, we're not doing the things that allow that short passing game to really succeed at the truest level. We're not forcing guys to back off the line of scrimmage, as you just said. We're not doing that. So either we got to find a way against jam press coverage just to kind of put it out there and let a guy run 10 yards and, beat the guy in front of him and get to the ball before the safety can get over all the way. And we just got to find a way to get some plays. And I would love to see Octavian Smith have a game. Some of these guys that are really invested in this program, what they believe in, that won these bowl games, that lead the locker room, that lead and have spent their entire careers here, play for this program. Because, the name stays on the helmet. But the program is the coach's program. Right? The program will change if somebody else takes over. It's at least the way that I see it. And
in some capacity, yes.
They want to see this continue, then we got to win. We need to deliver the results. It's great that we've improved, or we think that we've improved here. But the rubber is meeting the road. We got to win. Those guys in the locker room have got to win to keep this thing going, to keep people engaged, to get people re-engaged. Because we just haven't done it. We have not been able to capitalize on the opportunity or win the game or the 2 games that we think that we should have won. And again, like I said at the top of this, I know it's known in the locker room what the situation is. I would love to see it deliver something more than the effort that I believe I witnessed at eye level a week ago in New Jersey.
Well, I think it sums it up pretty well. Mason, Vegas has the Illini as a 14.5 point favorite. The FPI, ESPN's football metric, has them as 85% chance victor. What are you seeing out there on Saturday?
Yeah, Jordan. I kind of regret not getting to the X's and O's a little bit more on this because scheme wise, I like what the Illini do. I don't understand what's happened in some of these games where they just have not executed at all. Um, this is not going to be pretty as far as what I can see. Um, and it might be a proportional beatdown. I got it Illinois 56, Maryland 13. I think we're
Thanks.
done. What I saw on Saturday again at the line of scrimmage and not being able to effectively get after the passer or stop the run, you're talking about a well-coached team that's gonna again they're gonna evaluate the tape, they're gonna find ways to get it open in the run, and then they got a quarterback who's excellent at taking advantage of teams that are either not prepared or not on the same talent level. Pick your choice of words, whether what you want to use for us, but I think that mentally we are beat and just given the past performance, I cannot see us turning it around. I would love to see it. Um, I just I don't even see anything that would resemble that or that's giving me hope at this point.
Unfortunately, folks, I do agree with Mason on this one. Maybe not that many points. That would be the most they've scored this season. The Illini, that is. And the most Maryland has allowed this season. But give me Illinois 45, Maryland 20. I unfortunately would agree that the team I saw last week on the field at in Piscataway, which Mason, we didn't talk about this at all. What a bizarre game day experience that actually was last week. Maybe in our postseason wrap up we can talk about that a little bit more, but it just wasn't there. I didn't see us putting it together, and I'm not going to call it effort. I don't do that just as a rule. I don't do that, but we just didn't look like we were prepared. We did not look like we had it together, to put it another way. And at some point, maybe the walls start closing in the program, the players start to lose their mental edge a little bit. I don't know. Again, I'm not in the locker room. Neither's Mason. We don't know. But we're calling it as we see it. And I just can't see this team turning around on Saturday. But, if I'm wrong, I would love to be wrong. But I don't think we are. And I think we're down for a beatdown. But hopefully in Milwaukee, we can feel a little bit better with the men's team as the women's team closes in on a 20-point victory over Towson right now. Mason, any last words?
No, that's it. Hoping for something better than what I just said on Saturday. I just can't see it.
Neither can I. But as always, to our viewers, thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with us through this. It's been a very tough fall all around the board. And hopefully, at the very least, we'll be holding the College Cup in December. Until then, go Terps, and we'll see you on Saturday.